Remember how the coronavirus pandemic gripped the world? You may be wearing a mask or rubbing sanitizers on your hands as you watch this. So most probably you do. China's secrecy and crackdowns on anyone who tried to issue an early warning about the health emergency led to the pandemic taking over the world. However, China is about to throw the entire world into an economic crisis now. The Chinese economy is in danger of slipping into what economic experts call a recession. China's manufacturing activity is contracting sharply, its debt mountain is growing bigger, and the Chinese energy sector is in very bad shape. Meanwhile, China remains silent about everything. It is painting a different picture of its crackdowns and passes them off as antitrust probes or anti-corruption campaigns. Whatever comes out is the information that leaks out accidentally. Yet, certain parts of the world remain invested in the Chinese economy despite efforts of anti-China hawk leaders like Prime Minister Modi, former US President Donald Trump, and former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. China's economic downfall is thus bound to give a sudden blow to the world economy. Hi and welcome to TFI Global, the foreign affairs and geopolitical analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Shubhangi. And in this video, I will tell you how China is triggering a global economic crisis. Let's begin. Throughout the present century, the Western world has committed the mistake of getting perilously dependent on an uncertain authoritarian nation, the People's Republic of China. And now, the world is bound to be embroiled in an economic crisis due to China's economic downfall. China's hidden debt crisis is exposing those connected to the country's volatile bond markets. Shrinking factory output in China is pushing global commodity prices up. The energy and coal crisis in China is creating a monster of sorts for the world. Global coal and natural gas prices are rising. The Christmas season is around the corner, and like always, the world is going to shop a lot more in the next few months. Every year, you end up buying goods exported from China during the Christmas holidays. However, 2021 is different. Chinese manufacturing is receding, and there is going to be a serious crunch in the global goods supply sector. In fact, Chinese manufacturing has literally entered the contraction zone. The Chinese factory activity shrank in September itself owing to high raw material prices and the crisis in the communist nation. The official Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index, or the PMI, in China stood at 49.6 in September compared to 50.1 a month earlier. Such contraction has been recorded for the first time since February 2020. Global supply chains are already at risk, with MNCs like Apple and Tesla getting directly impacted by China's electricity woes. Car maker Toyota also had to face hurdles in its operations due to China's power woes. Even apart from companies operating in China, several of the global industries are dependent on China for key inputs. The European Union, for example, is dependent on China for raw materials, batteries, active pharmaceutical ingredients, hydrogen, cloud and edge technologies, and metals like aluminium and steel. Now, with China's manufacturing activity crashing, the EU is likely to face a sudden paucity of such raw materials. A global goods shortage is a huge pain for the Chinese exports-based economy. At the same time, it is a huge problem for the world too. The immediate effect is that the world will have to suffer a few problems before they even think or plan on how to reduce dependence on China. To give a broad idea, the Evergrande situation is just the tip of the iceberg. The Evergrande downfall is only a small expression of just how big China's debt mountain is. The real estate bubble in China is really huge and also very fragile. Built on the basis of ghost cities and unused infrastructure to boost GDP numbers, China's real estate bubble is about to pop. This implies that China is really close to its own Lehman Brothers moment, which had pushed the world economy into a recession in 2008. China's hidden local government debt is actually quite huge. As per economists at Goldman Sachs Group, it has risen to over half the size of China's economy. By the end of last year, the total debt of Chinese local government financing vehicles, or the LGFVs, rose to around 53 trillion yuan or $8.2 trillion. This is more than a threefold jump from 2014 levels of 16 trillion yuan. In fact, the LGFV debts are larger than the official outstanding government debt. So, China is using LGFBs as a mechanism for secretly borrowing money, and the local governments are also keeping their balance sheets clean. The liabilities of Chinese LGFBs are mostly concentrated in construction, transportation, and industrial conglomerate sectors. Together, these three industries make up around 40% of the total LGFB borrowing, and it is really a ticking time bomb for the world economy. The problem with the level of secrecy is that those who are integrated with the Chinese economy and its volatile bond market will never understand the quantum of risk involved. In fact, nearly 60% of the bonds issued by local platforms are being used to repay maturing debt in the financial year of 2020 to 2021, instead of making fresh investments. The Chinese province of Jiangsu alone borrowed 8 trillion yuan in 2020. Tianjin, Beijing, Sichuan, Guizhou, and Gansu too are heavy borrowers and remain the most highly leveraged Chinese provinces as a share of local economic output. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping is not helping cool the real estate bubble or control the debt crisis with his tight regulatory measures and crackdowns. Due to the rising debt crisis, Chinese banks and financial markets too risk getting caught in the country's unmanageable debt situation. So, global investors and economies integrated with China will be hurt really hard when its real estate bubble bursts and the debt crisis explodes. The Chinese energy crisis started in the 2020 winters itself, when Xi Jinping imposed imprudent bans on Australian coal shipments to China. Chinese cities have been blacking out frequently for quite some time now, and industrial activity has contracted significantly as explained already. However, the world is now feeling the pain of China's coal and energy crisis. China's coal crisis has actually come to mean higher coal prices for the entire world. China is actually willing to pay any price for coal now. Therefore, China's energy-starved rivals too have to offer greater prices, and as a result, global coal prices are rising uncontrollably. Remember, winter is coming, and natural gas prices are already at record levels. Coal, which was struggling to survive owing to the rise of cleaner energy sources, is suddenly making a remarkable comeback in the world market. Meanwhile, China is unabashedly pushing coal prices even further. The China Electricity Council has made it clear that it will expand coal procurement at any price to ensure heating and power generation in winter. The net effect of China's coal misadventures is to leave other parts of the world in an energy turmoil. Europe, for example, is already struggling in the face of a 13-year high coal price. In fact, China is importing coal from different parts of the world, like South Africa and Russia, a key supplier of fossil fuel to Europe. Such distortions in the coal supply market are putting further pressure on the European economies in terms of coal procurement prices. If the world economy is staring right into a 2008-like crisis, blame the Chinese secrecy surrounding its economic mismanagement. The Chinese economy is going down quite clearly, but it seems that Beijing is also going to push the world into an unprecedented economic crisis.